Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Masahiro Sakurai's next game shouldn't be a game at all, it should be a vacation. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as always, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We are going to be talking about the news from the week, including GDC coming back in some form or another, and the Fantastic Four coming over to Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3. And then on Thursday, in honor of Animal Crossing's New Horizons, we are going to be talking about our dream Nintendo vacations, or maybe there'll be a Nintendo Direct. We're going to make that call later in the week. But in the meantime, Mark, how are you?
I'm doing great, and I've got to be honest, I'm hoping and praying that there is a Nintendo Direct, but there may not be.
There might not be. So what are we basing our assumption that there may be a Nintendo Direct on?
Rumors.
Ooh, yeah.
Unsubstantiated rumors. Although, honestly, maybe by the time this episode is released, they'll be substantiated. There was I think why a lot of people have hope is that 2 weeks ago, there was an article in VentureBeat where the author of it, whose name I don't know off the top of my head, said, okay, there's going to be a Indie World showcase last week, which there was, and then that there was going to be a Direct this week. So we'll see.
Well, and this is just the timeline that these things happen on too, right? That we will find out about something Tuesday morning, immediately after we put this episode out. And so, if it happens, it happens. And also, if it happens on Thursday, we may hold to post a little bit later on Thursday. So you'll have more immediate reactions to that.
Yeah, for sure.
Before we get into the meat of the show, we do have to address the Sonic Forces borrowing program. Of course, it is on hold, suspended until further notice, until such time as we feel good sending stuff out in the mail or going to the post office even.
And dear listener, know how that this should be a shining example of how honest we are with you, because we could very easily just tell you that it was in the mail to somebody. You would never know. I would never know. Yeah. Patrick could lie to me.
That's true. And I would love it. I would relish the opportunity to lie to Mark. But if you would like to get on the list to eventually someday borrow my copy of Sonic Forces, all you have to do is send us an email to Nintendo Cartridge Society at gmail.com. and give us your mailing address, and then we send you my copy of Sonic Forces. But again, it'll be when the world is a little bit less like the world is right now.
I'm really hopeful that worked. I tried anticipating you and saying at gmail.com before you got there to accommodate for lag that we don't understand. So maybe it did. I don't know. And again, I will not edit it.
I'm going to sync up our audio, just sort of at the beginning, so that there's an obvious I speak, you respond, you speak, I respond. But as far as that specific us saying at gmail.com together, I will not touch.
We'll get there eventually.
Yeah, we'll get there. Yeah.
Thank you to JP Lerner for Real for the 5-star review this past week on Apple Podcasts. We appreciate it if you review us anywhere that you get the show. It helps us out tremendously.
Yeah, and also just we love it. In addition to it helping us, it makes us feel good.
It's so true. I mean, I'm checking multiple times a week to see if somebody did it so I could talk about them on the show.
Absolutely. So coming up in April, we have some fun stuff happening. We're going to be playing the Super NES classics. So starting on April 2nd, we're playing Legend of Zelda: Link to the Past, and we would like to have your most memorable moments from that game. That could be from this time playing through, that could be from a previous time, whatever. But get those to us kind of soon, because I'm sure we're going to be recording that about a week from now. And then the week after that, we're doing Super Metroid. And the week after that, we're doing Yoshi's Island. And the week after that, we are doing Star Fox. But Mark, we got an email from Martin that I'd like to read. Martin says, "Hey guys, thank you for continuing the podcast during these depressing times. Your attitudes and style create smiles in the storm." Martin, you are welcome. It creates smiles for us too that are badly needed, even for us. Martin goes on to say, I'm looking forward to the SNES Classics Showdown in April, or shows in April. He didn't say showdown. One thing I would love for you to discuss is how well these games would suit someone who has no nostalgia for them and has become used to games with 21st century quality of life improvements. I know that will be tough as your playthroughs will be burdened with tons of emotions, but I trust you two to try to step back and give an objective opinion. Thanks again for keeping the podcast going and helping the world through a tough time. It really is appreciated, Martin. Mark, what do you think? Can we give an objective assessment of the games that we played when we were 8 years old?
I think we can try, if nothing else. And then 2, I don't hate the idea of a showdown somehow. I don't know exactly what that means, and I don't know if it's happening in April. But that's not a terrible an idea in and of itself.
To pit Super Nintendo games against each other in some sort of battle royale? Yeah,
some sort of... exactly.
I mean, I like it. I think that we've stumbled into a great idea just because I don't know how to read.
That's how the Declaration of Independence was made.
All right. Well, thank you, Martin, for the email. Mark, let's get into what we've been playing this week. This should come as no surprise, but we have both been playing Animal Crossing New Horizons. Mark, how are you liking the game so far?
So far, it's pretty much everything that I hoped it would be.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. I'm enjoying it an awful lot. The other day you came over to my island, and I was almost like overcome with joy from having like another person visit my space.
Yeah, that part has been so much fun. Just like being able to go to other people's islands, leave them gifts. I mean, one thing that with everything that's been going on that I have found is just like texting people more often or checking in on them and all that kind of stuff. And so sending people letters every day or like posting the encouraging messages on their town bulletin board and all that kind of stuff like has just been such like a rewarding and fun thing to have like going on right now. It's just like another social touch point to hang out with people I like.
Yeah, absolutely. And just like having a little bit, that like tiny bit of structure around it where it's like you go to someone's island and like they're fishing and you're like, hey, I can fish with you. And it's just like, what? Why does this feel so good? Why do I love this?
Yeah. The other part of it that like I'm really enjoying just in general is how much it rewards you for being like patient, because yes, you can, like time jump and do all that kind of stuff if you want to skip ahead quickly. But this time more than it has been in the past, I found myself able to just like do it in small bits. So it's like, okay, I'm going to like play for today, check in on everybody, maybe just, like fish for a little bit, or I'm going to I have to make sure I water my flowers. Then I'll gather some resources. But I have found it very relaxing to not try to like min-max Animal Crossing.
Yes.
Because that feels such like a stressful way to experience that game.
No kidding. And like I see a lot of people like on Twitter or Facebook or whatever that are like sharing images of like their house or their town or whatever. And there are clearly people who are, I mean, like play games how you want to play games, I guess. But there are definitely people who are like time traveling and or spending like a ton of time in the game, but it's nice to just sort of like take it at your own pace, like you're saying, and just sort of enjoy island life.
Well, one of the things that I'm honestly worried about is like if I do try to do more every day, that I'm going to burn myself out. The way that this game is different from past games is before you could just time travel to December and get the Christmas experience. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This game, you're not gonna be able to do that. So if I want to see what the holidays are like in Animal Crossing New Horizons, I'm gonna have to actually, play the game during the holiday season. And if I want to show myself in Hogwarts without everybody hating me, I'm gonna have to be like maintaining those relationships the entire year. So it kind of like, but out of necessity, is something that I'm trying to treat as like I just do a little bit at a time so it can sustain itself and I can experience all those other things instead of just kind of like getting sick of it like I have with some of the previous games because I was trying to do like so much all the time every day.
Yeah. It is funny though, because like I will turn on the game like with the express goal of like, okay, I'm just gonna play for like half an hour. I'm just gonna gather a few things and like say hi to everyone. But then like, I realized like, oh, I'm just a few pieces of wood away from being able to like do this, or oh, the people that I talked to on like the little deserted islands are now gonna like come live on my island and I have to find places for their like I feel like there's always something dragging me back to like do more in ways that I don't like anticipate when I turn it on.
Oh, a hundred
Like
percent. I mean, I feel
I'm
like
finding the game to be very yeah,
sorry, I was just gonna say, like,
go
I
ahead.
feel like it's like the Stardew Valley thing, where yeah, like
Yeah.
the checklist of things you need to do are seemingly very simple, but then you're always thinking of like, oh, I should just like gather like a little more materials, or oh, I forgot to like drop off this fossil, or like, and all of that stuff, it just like adds up. So yeah, I'm always spending
Yeah.
more time in there than I intended to.
Let me ask you this. Have you convinced your husband to play this with you?
No, I haven't yet. Haven't really. It's so funny because even though we are both working from home and are just like hanging out here, we really haven't had an opportunity to do that yet. But I'm excited to introduce it to him.
So I started Sarah on the island, and first of all, let me just say that it is weird that her experience of the game isn't like flying to an uncharted island and naming the island. Like it's a bummer that she misses that, right?
Because she's playing as a user on the Switch. You guys aren't playing like simultaneous co-op. Is that correct?
Well, we have not yet, but I mean, I guess if you are playing like the simultaneous co-op, that the second player can just be randomly generated. Actually, I don't know if that's true, or if like it actually needs to be a like another person who lives on the island. So like, yeah, she has her own profile, and I could invite her to play while I'm playing. Um, but if it were just like the two of us and she wasn't living on the island, I guess I don't know what it does then.
Yeah, yeah. I'm not sure either.
But like it's cool to have her tent on the island. And it's also very satisfying to just like keep sending her stuff because I'm obviously playing the game way more than she
Uh
is.
huh.
So like I feel a little bit bad about like strip mining all of the valuable resources out. Um, so I've been sending her a couple letters every day, like filled with fruit or like an axe she can't craft yet or whatever.
Is she able to like actively contribute to like the museum or um like is when Timmy or Tommy are trying to build the store, can she contribute to like the resources necessary for that?
Yeah, anyone can. So any of the up to 8 people that you could have living on that island could be contributing to those things.
But if you go and like shake every tree and then she gets into the game, can she shake the tree and get like new stuff too, or is there a limited amount of resources on the island? Is that what you're saying?
I think there's a limited amount of resources on the island, but I'm also not
Oh.
I'm not 100% sure. Like I have been intentionally leaving like there are still some weeds on my island, even though like my impulse was like remove all the weeds, Patrick, you can do it. And I was like, no, 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 no. In the early game, that's like a valuable thing to like collect and sell. Um, but yeah, so it creates a little bit of like a weird economy. And then also just thinking about like if I was encouraging her to start playing on like Saturday or Sunday or something like as early as possible, right? Because like if I get too far like into the game, she's just gonna come onto a fairly developed island, you
Hmm.
know? Like I just wanted to have the ability to also experience some of the wilderness, before I've got a million residents living there.
Do you remember which island configuration did you choose? How are your rivers laid out?
So my rivers are laid out so that like my main habitable area is the like bottom right corner, and I've got like a mountain in like the like back the upper right.
Oh, interesting.
Is that how is yours situated?
Mine, I kind of have like this island thing in the center of it where the two rivers are like crossing. And because I picked that one explicitly because I wanted to like put my house on that little island thing, but you can't when you first start because you don't have a way to get across.
That's right.
So now I just have beachfront property.
Well, and that's great too. And also like you can set up like a nice little outdoor space anywhere you want on the island and just hang out there.
Yeah, I'm basically like I haven't done a lot of crafting of furniture and that kind of stuff. So my house, I have upgraded once from the tent to the house, and it's like a dorm room. Like it's very stark, mismatched furniture. It's a little bit of a mess, but it's just not where I've been putting my attention.
Yeah, I mean I'm still sleeping on a cot.
Yeah, me too. Me too. I'm house poor is what's happening.
That, but rich in neighbors, I guess.
No, I still just have two.
I also still just have two, but I just set aside the space for 3 houses from people that I have visited on like little deserted islands. But I only remember inviting 2, so like who's this third person? I don't know.
But
on the subject of no, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, but yeah, in general, I'm really loving it.
On the subject of Animal Crossing, we got an email from Matthew. He says, "Good afternoon, gentlemen." For the purpose of this conversation, it'll be afternoon. He says, "I'm a longtime follower of your show, and I love it. Your views and opinions on games and gaming are right in line with my own, and each episode adds a brand of comedy that I can't get anywhere else on my commutes. I appreciate your show, and just wanted to say, keep up the excellent work." For the real meat of my email, I haven't communicated with you much in the past, but I would find it very enjoyable to visit you from time to time in Animal Crossing if you happen to be online someday. I believe that may require Nintendo friend codes, and if that is agreeable, I can definitely give mine for yours. I believe this time of quarantine and social distancing, the more folks can string together to virtually visit, the better. Again, thanks so much for the show, and I cannot wait for what is next. So Matt, we do have our friend codes in the description of every episode. So you should friend both Mark and I. They are listed there. We love having more friends. Also, I have decided that on Wednesday, for the bulk of the day, starting at like, I'm going to say 9 a.m. Pacific time, I'm going to open my island. So if anyone wants to come and visit Ellers' island, which is called Valhalla, you are welcome to come and visit. I'll be hanging out there all day.
That's awesome. Yeah, we one thing with this is like you should totally friend us on Switch. That makes it easy for us to open our island to anybody who is our friends on Switch, and then you can kind of like come, you can add us as best friends, and that just makes the whole thing easier. I think if we send dodo codes or whatever they're called, that it's like you aren't able to be best friends with people. It's much more specific. So yeah, I think adding us on Switch, anytime I'm playing the game, I'll try to open it up to friends, is the easiest way, because we would love for you to visit our island, and we 100% want to visit your island for sure.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It's Mark visited my island. He brought me pears. I planted them. I now have pear trees growing. Like, it's beautiful. All right, Mark, should we get into the new releases?
Yeah, let's do it. All right. So after Animal Crossing, we're back to being a little bit of a, not packed week. On Thursday, March 26th, there's a 3DS eShop release, which is notable just for the
What?
fact that it's a 3DS eShop release. Miles and Kilo, I think that's what it is. To me, in my head, Miles and Kylo sounds better, but like
Right.
Kilo, I guess I am assuming is like kilometers or something. I don't know. I think it's a
That
dog.
would make sense. Miles, yeah. That's that that's interesting that it's a game still coming to the 3DS eShop. And again, if we've mentioned it before that you are not able to buy anything on the 3DS eShop with your credit card, that is incorrect.
Yeah.
You can in fact buy anything you want using your credit card.
I mean, we have 100% said that in the past, which is why we have to do this mea culpa every time.
That's right.
And then on Friday, March 27th, on the Switch, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4 is released, as well as Saints Row 4 Reelected, which is kind of like a remastered version of Saints Row 4 being ported to Switch.
Are you a fan of the Saints Row games at all?
I've never played any of them. I mean, I know they're supposed to be kind of like a goofier Grand Theft Auto, which definitely sounds up my alley. But I've never really experienced any of them.
And then I assume that One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, is that a like Dynasty Warriors-esque game, a Muso?
I have no idea, but yeah, probably. I'm going to take an uneducated guess and say yes. That is exactly what it is.
I'm just going to look, game publishers, if you put the word warriors in the title of your game, you're making a Muso game.
I mean, not just
I'm sorry.
On top of being warriors, it's like Warriors 4. To me, that is a very clear sign that we're talking about some sort of Muso game, some sort of licensed Muso game.
Yes, I was going to say, especially attached to an anime property. All right, so those are the new releases. Let's close out this segment. Now it's time for a regular segment on the show. It's time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, today I wanted to talk about trivia contests. I believe one of the so I was thinking of it because my buddy Drew just hosted like a trivia night on Facebook Live. So it had like the sort of same feel as a like pub trivia night. But obviously everyone is in their own homes and not like, you know, at a bar.
And Drew is and it was totally into trivia, right?
Yes, that's right. So I think we've mentioned this on the show before, but the school that I went to, Lawrence University, had a long-running trivia contest that would happen once a year where it's like a whole weekend of questions. And they're all sort of like Google-proof questions because, like, you know, you're just answering them from your dorms. Like, you're just calling in and, like, calling into the radio station and answering the questions. And so, like, you would have to... It's always like you have to Google like 2 separate pieces of information and then like synthesize them and then like Google something else to find like the actual answer. And so he did that again here, and it was just a super fun, chill time. And Sarah and I totally won it. We're the best.
Oh, wow. That's awesome. Are you generally pretty good at trivia?
I don't, not always. Like I feel like there are some rooms that I'm in or some like some topics. Like there was one time in Chicago that we went to a Lost trivia contest, and we got one question wrong out of 50.
Oh my gosh,
we crushed it.
That's how I love like pub trivia. I love the idea of it. I love participating in it, but I'm not very good at it. But yeah, when there are like categories that I excel at, you feel like a superhero. Like I was at one, and one of the topic was like theme parks, and they were asking for like the names of roller coasters and rides at like Disney theme parks, and I, you know, like it was just like this was my moment.
Yes. Was this the because I feel like going to a trivia night was one of the first times that like you and I hung out socially.
Oh my gosh, you're totally right. From like a improv class.
Yeah, that's right. It was like right over there, right across the street from Sony.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yes, I do. I 100% remember that.
The one thing that was shady about that night is one of our teammates, Jake, like disappeared during the final question, came back like this is the answer, and wouldn't tell us why he knew it or where he got the information. Do you remember this?
I do, because we won. In heavy quotation marks.
Yeah. So if anyone wants to go back in time and relitigate a trivia contest in Los Angeles from like 5 years ago, probably more than that.
Probably more than that at this point.
But that is one of the things that I don't think I participated in enough. I'm talking like it's the end of the world and it'll never happen again. But it was very nice to do it like an online version of it. Oh,
I guess we'll never know for sure how nice it was.
Well, exactly. I was just about to expound on how nice it was. We were accompanied today by the EBU Your Radio Orchestra. All right, Mark, let's get into the news.
Marvel Ultimate Alliance 3, The Black Order, has a new DLC coming out soon. The Fantastic Four Shadow of Doom DLC launches March 26th, which is this Thursday. It's, of course, only available if you buy the season pass. And we learned this week that Celestial will be included as a boss, which means nothing to me. Do you know who Celestial is? What that is, Patrick?
So I know Celestial as a type of being in the Marvel universe. Like Galactus is a Celestial. So I imagine it's just going to be like an enormous, like godlike character.
Yeah, that's what it looks
guess.
like. I'm also wondering if like something got lost in translation. Do you know what I mean? Where like it is a Celestial and then that is getting presented as like Celestial. So I don't know.
But that's cool. It's exciting to see that they're like still putting out and I mean we knew that this one was coming. Is this the last of the DLC packs or is there one more?
Yeah, I feel like there's one more, but I can't remember for sure. This is a game that I didn't finish when it came out in July because I got sidetracked by like Three Houses, which released 1 week after this did. But what I played of it was super fun, and it's a great one that like it would be fun to just hang out one afternoon and like breeze through with you.
Yes. Someday when we are hanging out again, let's do that.
Yes, exactly. There was also like a little bit of I guess like interesting stuff going on with new costumes that are going to be released. So we've talked about new costume DLC for this game in the past, and it's all been part of like free updates, and then only story content has been behind the like season pass paywall. But there's also with this release, there's also going to be new costumes for Iceman, Cable, Jean Grey, and Gambit. And for whatever reason, these four are exclusive to the expansion pass.
That's weird.
Yeah, especially because they're not like really Fantastic Four related. Yeah, it's just like curious. And as a consumer, like consumer facing, it's a decision that doesn't make any sense. Maybe it makes sense with like the licensing agreement that they have with Marvel or whatever, and they can only use certain characters for free, whatever. It's just the whole thing. It's just so weird. It's so bizarre that they would make that one exception.
Sorry, I was just reviewing Iceman, Cable, Jean Grey, and Gambit. So the last pack is X-Men, right? The Rise of the Phoenix, or did that already come out?
I honestly can't remember, but that sounds right.
Oh yeah, no, it already came out. It already came out.
Okay.
I think Shadow of Doom is the last one. Curse of the Vampire was the first one. Rise of the Phoenix is the second, and Shadow of Doom is the third and final. Yeah, I wonder if Marvel is just like, hey, push those X-Men. We're pushing them in the comics, so like push them everywhere else.
Yeah, maybe. Although again, but weird if they're like push them, but only if people bought the expansion pass.
Yeah, that's a great point.
Masahiro Sakurai published his 600th column in the Japanese magazine Famitsu this past week. According to a translation of the column by website Nintendo Everything, Sakurai casually mentions in his conversation, quote, "Right now, all I can think about is producing DLC for Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. After I finish that, though, it's a total blank slate."
Okay, now hold on. Why is this guy who is famously overworked writing 600 columns in Famitsu?
I think that means that for like 600 weeks, he has been producing columns for Famitsu. I think he's just a workaholic. I think even if you tried to get him to stop, which I would love to, I would love for Masahiro Sakurai to just take a vacation.
Yeah, just take a break, buddy.
I think even if you tried to, he would turn it into work somehow. Like he'd sneak his work phone, into the
Yeah.
meditation retreat, and he'd be answering emails while he's like quietly whimpering in pain because the carpal tunnel hurts so bad.
And because people won't stop requesting Waluigi and Smash.
That's what's giving him carpal tunnel.
Yeah, somehow. That
Yeah.
goes right to his wrists.
Also, in his previous column from the week before, he talked about how COVID-19 was affecting video game development. As part of a broader point, just as like one illustration that he brought up, like one example, is he talked about how he was preparing and need to give a presentation to a company about an upcoming Smash Brothers fighter, but that it wasn't possible to get all the key parties together. So that meeting has been postponed indefinitely. So, that has the ripple effect of obviously development can't proceed. So, like whatever the internal timeline was for those sort of releases, it just got pushed back indefinitely. And that's just like one small example of how this broader outbreak, I'm sure, is affecting, gaming across the board.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's the sort of thing that makes me wonder how many of the like anticipated releases from this year are going to come out when we think they're going to come out. And again, this is maybe a little bit of an outside Nintendo conversation because we don't really have an idea of what the rest of Nintendo's year looks like. But something like The Last of Us 2 or the Cyberpunk 2077, like all those games had release dates that were just recently like pushed back, in the case of Last of Us, like 4 or 5 months, and in the case of Cyberpunk, like 6 or 7 months. And I wonder if like, can they have people in the office to be finishing all this stuff up? Like, are these games going to ship when they think they were going to ship?
Yeah, I mean, it's a really good question. Naughty Dog is based in Santa Monica, which is in California, which, right now, none of those people are supposed to be working in the office. So yeah, and just, like, it has been a long time since we've had a Nintendo Direct, and maybe there is one happening this week. And maybe their plan was always to have one, this late in the year and not have it earlier. But you do totally have to wonder, like, how much does all of this affect what people are, like, what release dates you can commit to, or like release timeframes when there's just so much unknown right now.
Yeah. Also, let's revisit this for a second. That there is a character that they were working on, right? We're going to go into wild speculation here. A character that they were working on, they had to get it was not possible to get all the key parties together. So it's a character that requires multiple parties to get together. You know what that means, Mark? I'm going to make a wild guess.
Okay,
I'm going to
please.
say he's talking about Sora. He couldn't get Square and Disney together.
I mean, it's either Sora or it's Gino, right?
Oh, now that's interesting. I mean, is Gino just a Square Enix character? Because it seems like they could do that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know
also
what the rights of like Mario RPG are.
Yeah. Yeah.
But either way, I think it's either one of those two guesses and couldn't be anything else.
or James Bond.
Oh, right. Yeah. Okay, sorry. It could be. There's an outside chance it's James Bond. I will give you that. So GameStop has announced it's temporarily closing all of its stores, also in response to COVID-19 and state directives. Because after California announced a statewide closure of all non-essential retail stores last week, GameStop continued to operate. And their explanation was that because it sold equipment that people needed to work from home, that it qualified as essential. So nice try. But
Yeah. That is a wild stretch. Yes, I understand GameStop does have keyboards somewhere in that store.
right, and you
There's
can
a mouse and a
probably
keyboard
buy
somewhere.
a router or something like that. But yeah,
But that is not what the GameStop sells. Come on.
100%. So after criticism, the company has decided to close all of its stores to customers. You can still purchase games online and either have them shipped to you, or if you want to pick them up, they're doing something that they're calling like curbside pickup. So basically, they'll put the game in a bag and see your car pull up, and they'll like set it outside, and then you can go like grab it without having to have any like person to person contact.
So let's actually drill into that for a second because that's something that I have seen like a number of comic book stores offering. Is curbside pickup. I have not ventured into any curbside pickup transactions yet. Have you, Mark?
No, I haven't. I mean, Best Buy is doing the same thing where you can still make purchases from Best Buy and pick them up in store, but again, like they will just either like bring it to your car, or if you're having home delivery, they'll deliver it to your door as close as they can. But like they won't. Before they would like come in and they could, like put the TV in your living room or something, and they're not doing any of that anymore.
Yeah, now they're just leaving it on the front curb and
Y-
ding dong ditching you.
Yeah, exactly. Uh,
Well, that's I'm happy to that they have kind of relaxed the it's it's obviously important that like businesses figure out a way to stay in business. Especially because like we were just saying, where we are going to see more sort of constraints on the supply side. Like we was just announced today that and this is on the subject of comics, that Diamond, the like international distributor for all weekly comics, has said, publishers stop sending us new comics after April, and that is having like a ripple effect out to all of the publishers that would be putting these things out, and it also to all of the stores that are selling them, that and like every step in the supply chain has its own vulnerability. So like as long as GameStop can safely service its clientele and protect its workers, I'm happy that they're finding a way to do that for as long as they can.
mm-hmm. Yeah, completely. I guess in happier news, so the 2020 Game Developers Conference was originally planned to happen this week in San Francisco. Of course, it has been canceled. At the time that it was canceled, the organizers said that they hope to bring GDC back in some form later this year, during the summer. And last week, they announced first details of what that will look like. They're calling it GDC Summer 2020. It's going to be a 3-day event from August 4th through 6th. The event will be, quote, a 3-day celebration of the art, craft, and business of game development. They promise basically like the same caliber of presentation and panels that they have had in the past. It just sounds like the floor part of the convention is going to be a little bit more casual, for lack of a better term. They talk about making an effort to make it easy for companies and people to get involved on short notice. Because for something like E3 or a GDC, if a company is planning on being there, it's something that they're probably working on most of the year leading up to that, like how they're going to present themselves at the show. And so to
Yeah.
have this new format, and trying to put it all together in such a short amount of time, it just feels like it's going to be a little less elaborate, a little more casual than it has been in the past.
That's interesting. Like, make it a little bit more like plug and play and a little less like customizable. That like, one of the things that we expect, not at GDC, of course, but at like E3, is that like a big Nintendo booth that is as much spectacle as it is like game demo. And that this would be a little bit more like everyone just goes in and like, like you say, without having to have like a ton of runway to figure out what you're doing, just sort of plug yourself in.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. Although I do have to admit that like I like seeing this. It's reassuring to me somehow that this is going to be on the books. And even though the event that was planned for March has now been canceled, that a lot of those same things are still going to be able to take place just like a few months later.
Or so we hope.
Yes. The PlayStation 4 title Dreams officially released last month. It's a content creation tool set / game from Media Molecule that allows players to pretty much create anything they want. We've seen recreations of other games being built in Dreams, including some using Nintendo IP. And this past week, Nintendo started contacting Sony, requesting that the content that violates Nintendo copyright be taken down from Dreams. Nintendo is historically pretty aggressive when it comes to content takedowns, sometimes to the chagrin of the fan community. Do you remember AM2R, the Metroid 2 fan remake that
You bet I do.
was like in the works for, I'm sure, a number of years, and then was taken down from the internet shortly after its release.
Yeah, and then like within a year of it being taken down, Nintendo released Samus Returns,
Yeah.
their own remake of Metroid 2. So
Mhm.
like I don't this is one of those where like I know that Nintendo is playing harder with their IP than like a lot of people do. There's obviously a ton of pirated intellectual property in Dreams, right? Like it's almost certainly built on the backs of established intellectual property. And like you can argue that like, well, no one's making any money off of it, or it is like, riffing on the idea, so it's fair use. But like I I don't know. I feel like Nintendo's within their right to be like, hey, you can't have a Mario game in Dreams, right? Like, um, it makes sense to me, and I also see why people are frustrated by it. What's your take on this, Mark?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you completely. Uh, the argument, the counter argument, fans are right, like are upset because people are putting a lot of time and love into the things that they're creating. And you're right that a lot of times they're not charging for it. They're just doing it because they want to. Um, and Nintendo takes it down and fans get upset about that. And I totally understand it. And then, the counter argument to that is that, just as part of copyright law, if you aren't being aggressive about your trademarks and copyrights, then it's easier for somebody to say that you don't actually value it because, you're not, in the past, you didn't aggressively defend it. So it's just one of those things where like you can't really, I don't know if there ever is like a way to merge those two things. They just are counter to each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, and also like it's one of those things that's like it's just a known quantity. So like don't rip off Nintendo stuff, right?
Yeah.
Like you have to know that there is some. It's just like Disney, right? Like, don't put up a stage production of a Disney show, because it's going to draw the eye of an entity that is going to aggressively defend its intellectual property.
Right.
And maybe that's a little bit like blaming the little guy or corporate apologist but like it's just what we know about these entities. So Sarah and I were watching the Simpsons tonight because it is a fine way for us to wind down when we're too freaked out about the world. and we watched the episode where Lisa is babysitting Bart. Like Lisa has become a babysitter, right?
Mm-hmm.
And Homer and Marge leave her at home to take care of Bart, and like uh, Lisa does a bad job because like Bart just behaves the way Bart does, right? Like she should know how Bart is going to behave. Is it right that he behaves that way? Probably not. But the best way to manage Bart is not going to be like tell him to wash his hands and come to dinner. Like the best way to manage Bart is to like work with Bart. Just like the best way to engage with Nintendo's intellectual property is to go through official channels, because they will make your night terrible if you try to repurpose it for something else. It's just what
Yeah.
we know about those companies.
Yeah. Not to dwell on this too much longer, just like two things I thought of. One is that it's not like Doug Bowser is sitting crawling through dreams and then sending emails to people. Most of the time, they hire third-party companies who,
Right.
they manage all like this copyright stuff, and they're the ones who are sending the takedown requests. And then two, I think like the fan argument, there is a point to it where it's like, yeah, like some of the stuff that Nintendo takes down, like streams on YouTube and all that kind of stuff, like it doesn't really hurt Nintendo to have that on there, and maybe it even by taking that stuff down, they are like kind of like stamping on their fan base a little bit, whereas somebody might find it and then enjoy watching somebody's let's play, and that turns them into a Nintendo fan. So I think those are all valid arguments, but again, like we've been saying, it's just really there's no like real middle ground between the two arguments. It's
Yeah.
in an interview with Fanbyte, Yacht Club Games founder Sean Valesco explained that having Shovel Knight as a playable character in Super Smash Bros. Ultimate was, quote, never really in the cards. Nintendo only ever contacted them about Shovel Knight being an assist trophy like he is in the game now, but that, internally they had some fun thinking about what some of his moves might be, but it never really got any further than that.
Do you think he's speaking in code when he says it was never really in the cards? Was King Knight a playable character at some point?
Nintendo announced that Octopath Traveler has sold over 2 million copies. The game, kind of in celebration, the game is on sale for 50% off in Europe and North America through April 2nd. And that's a really good price for that game, $30.
Yeah. As we mentioned on a previous episode, is a great game to play like a quarter of the way through.
Yeah, because I felt anyways at that point. Like I was like, okay, I get it. It was weird. It wasn't like a conscious decision. I just like drifted away from it, like it had never happened.
Yeah. I think everyone did, because like it makes there are obviously 8 characters in the game, and like you have to like go through the first beats of all of their stories just like one after another, and like after the 5th or 6th you're like, okay, like I get it, I get how the first chapter of these stories go, and then you still got to do 2 more, and then by the time you get to the second chapters you're like, okay, I understand what these are after like 3 or 4, and then you got to do the rest of them. And like the recommended level cap, or not the level cap, but like it'll show you when you travel to like each town or each area what like your recommended level is. And there's not like, the game kind of presents, and it looks like you get to choose, and you get to choose like what order you're tackling the character stories in, but like, I wish that it was flexible enough that you could just be like, you know what, I'm not going to go down the dancer's path at all. Like, I'm just not going to, I'll collect her at the beginning, but like, I'm never going to see that story through. And it's just not that flexible. Like, it kind of requires you to do everything.
Finally, the Strong Museum of Play in Rochester, New York, is home to the World Video Game Hall of Fame, apparently since 2015. And the 12 finalists for 2020 inductees have been announced. And they are Bejeweled, Centipede, Frogger, GoldenEye 007, Guitar Hero, King's Quest, Minecraft, NBA Jam, Nokia Snake, Super Smash Bros. Melee, Uncharted 2 Among Thieves, and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego?
So a lot of quality games on this list.
Yeah, I love
First,
it. I have no idea who is nominating them. I have no idea who's voting on them. But it's a great like grab bag of games.
Do you have any idea how many make it into the Hall of Fame, or is it just?
Oh, I looked it up earlier. I can't find it right now, but I think there's like 5 a year or something like that.
So okay, let's use that as our standard. 5 games. 5 games off of this list go into the Hall of Fame. What would your 5 be?
Okay. For me personally, I think Guitar Hero's got to be on there.
Absolutely.
I think Nokia Snake has to be on there. I think Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego has to be on there.
A must. Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego is a game type that I don't think has been appropriately replicated in the modern game era. We have no modern equivalent of Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego, and it's a crime.
I wonder, do you think they are still making it for like modern PCs? Because I used to get them out of like the Scholastic book order.
Yeah, totally. And it would come with a with an atlas.
Yeah, 100%.
Or an almanac. Not an atlas. An atlas is a book of maps.
Let's see. And then I kind of get a little fuzzy. I actually don't think GoldenEye makes my list. Maybe NBA Jam and Bejeweled, maybe?
See, Bejeweled is like the one that like I understand, but I would just like on my own personal list that I wouldn't. I think this is my list. I think my list is Guitar Hero, NBA Jam, Nokia Snake, Uncharted 2, and Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego.
I mean, that's a solid list. Poor Super Smash Brothers Melee. But, you know, like Ultimate exists now.
It's also weird to like because Smash Brothers is such a like it is a museum for video games. It's weird to put a museum inside a museum. Do you know what I mean? I have actually been to the Museum of Play in Rochester, New York.
From the pictures I saw online, it looks awesome. Because they also have the Toy World Hall of Fame too.
Oh, whoa! I think I don't believe that the Video Game Hall of Fame was there when I was there. This is only since 2015, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, I went but before that, probably almost 10 years ago now. And it was very nice. I remember playing with some Sesame Street puppets and making the Oscar the Grouch sing "I Love Trash." That's my that's my memory of the Rochester Museum of Play.
That feels like a success.
All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. Okay, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Remember, please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts. If you like the episode, please share it on Facebook or Twitter or wherever you share things now. Also, just quick reminder that if there is a Nintendo Direct and it is happening on Thursday, the Thursday's episode will be a little bit later than usual, but otherwise look for us on Thursday morning. You can follow us on Twitter. I'm at Patrick_Ellers. Mark is at MKE Mitchell, and the show is at Nin Kart Society. And also be our friends on Nintendo Switch. You can find our friend codes in the description of the episode. Olivia Duncan made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
Hey, Rachel, Oscar.
Yeah, Claire?
Do you love Disney movies?
Uh-huh.
Have you seen them all? Not all of them.
What do you guys think if we watch them all in chronological order and then talk about them?
Ooh. Oh, and what if we can talk about it with some of our favorite friends?
I love that.
Yeah, and what if we do it inside the Disney Vault?
You know, that's the name of our podcast, Inside the Disney Vault on Campfire Media.
Yeah, check us out on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to yours.
That's Inside the Disney Vault.
Let's go!
Woo!
Campfire.